Hey, my name is Evis, and I'm one of the co-founders here at Neosync, and today I'm going to be giving you a short demo of how you can use Neosync to anonymize sensitive data and sync it across environments. So everything at Neosync begins with connections. Connections are upstream and downstream databases or even object storage that you want to move data in between. I've already gone ahead and created two connections for an upstream database for our production database and a downstream database for our staging database. I've done that in Neon, and so Neon is a Postgres provider. In our production database, which is this Neon DB right here, I've created two tables, a users table and a transactions table. Our user table has just a few columns, a user ID column, a username, and then an email address. And then our transactions table has a transaction ID, a user ID which is foreign keyed to the user ID column in the users table, an amount, and then a transaction date. So let's go ahead and create a job in Neosync. We're going to select the data synchronization job. We're going to give this a name. We're going to select our source, which is our production, and then our destination, which is our stage. I'm also going to select truncate cascade, and this is going to truncate any of the data in our destination environment before we insert a fresh new batch every time. Now you can also sync to multiple destinations, multiple databases, or even a database and object storage as well. Now we get into our transformer mappings. First, we select what schemas and tables we want to bring from source to destination. So I'm going to go ahead and bring both of our tables over. And when I do that, the transformer mapping table here automatically populates all of the columns in those two tables, along with some metadata about those. So we have, for example, a transactions table in our transactions ID column. It's an integer data type, it's not nullable, and it is a primary key. Our user ID in the same table is a foreign key, and then you can see the foreign key or the primary key that foreign keys to it. Now, what we want to do is select transformers, and transformers are ways for us to either anonymize data or generate synthetic data. So for this transaction ID, since it's a primary key and it's an integer, I'm just going to rely on the column default and use the column default transformer. The user ID, which is a foreign key, I'm actually just going to pass this through. We don't want to transform this value because that's linked to the user ID column in the users table. And if we were to transform this, that would break that foreign key constraint. For the amount column, I'm going to go ahead and generate a float 64. Let's put some min and max on it between 10 and 100. For the transaction date, I'm going to select a generate UTC timestamp. For the user ID, this is a primary key. I'm going to use the column default again. Now, one thing I want to point out here is that you may have seen how the transformer selection pop-up here changes, and that's because we automatically filter it based on the type of the column. And that's to prevent things like trying to insert a string into an integer column and then getting an error. For the username, we're going to generate a brand new username using our username transformer. And then for the email address, we're going to transform the existing email address. So we're going to select our transform email transformer, open up our options. We're going to preserve the domain, and we're going to generate a brand new username that looks like a full name. I'm going to save it. We're going to click next. And the last step here is to set up subset. Now, subsets are great ways to filter your data or create a data set based on some SQL filters that you want. Neosync automatically handles referential integrity. For this demo, we're just going to skip this part. Now we're going to trigger our job. Great, so our job is done. It took just about 13 seconds to run. So let's hop back over to Neon, and let's take a look at our source users table one more time. So our usernames are user1 and user2, and our emails are user1@example.com and user2@example.com. Now let's switch this to stage and run the same select query. And you can see that our usernames have changed and our emails have changed, but we've retained the domain and we've just changed the username. Let's do the same with our transactions table. Our source transactions table had transaction ID, user ID, amounts, and then some transaction dates. Now let's check out our transform transactions table and stage. Here you can see we have different amounts and different transaction dates while maintaining the same transaction ID and user IDs because we kept those static. And this has been a short demo, but there's a lot more that you can do, from creating your own custom transformers in code to implement your own anonymization and synthetic data logic, to using our APIs and SDKs to be able to programmatically manage your Neosync instance and connections, and even use us within your CI pipeline. I hope you'll check us out, and I'll see you next time.